I'd like to call a meeting to order. This is the June 26th meeting of the Lowell Conservation Commission. Order of business, we first have a notice of intent that was continued from our last meeting on June 12th, New England Power Company, DEP number 2060708. The project location is 21 York Ave, 119 Chatham Street, and 160 Old Canal Drive. Would you give your name, please?
Representing New England Power. There's the microphone. Since the last hearing, we've investigated additional mitigation options. We met with our client to discuss the feasibility of those options, and then we met with Ms. Joseph and Mr. Clausen to discuss the two options we felt were feasible. As a result, we revised the mitigation area in the following ways, just to summarize. We increased the size from 100 square feet, 1-to-1, to 200 square feet, or 2-to-1 mitigation ratio. We also relocated it as close to the old canal as we could so that it connected to the same wetland area that was being impacted. We also tried to replicate at the same elevation so that the mitigation area would also provide flood storage loss. The impacts are at an elevation of 112, 113, and the mitigation area is at an elevation of 113. So we've provided a cover letter and a revised plan to show those changes. And that's basically it, unless you have any questions.
About what is the distance between the replication area and the area that was being filled?
I can try to estimate that for you here. Approximately 400 feet. But the entire length of right-of-way is wetland, so we're at the edge of the wetland. That's where we're replicating.
So it's the same stretch of wetland?
It is, yes.
Now, there was some discussion of your access. Has that changed since the last hearing? The access to get into, do the work?
The access has not changed. We still have upland access roads for the work that's being reviewed as part of this notice of intent. There's also a simultaneous exempt maintenance project that will be occurring maybe before, after, and sometimes in conjunction with the work that we've proposed. And those areas will have some swamp mats down to access those structures. So if any other access is needed besides the upland access roads, those mats will already be down, and those mats will be used to complete this work. For instance, in the letter, since we changed the replication area to a portion of the right-of-way where we're not actually doing work under this notice of intent, there is only some upland access. So we have to make sure that the replication area is constructed during the maintenance portion of the project when the swamp mats are already down. So we'll be accessing that area when the maintenance is being done so that there's no additional impact to install that replication area.
Mm-hmm. And what is the length of time that all of this work will take?
We are hoping between 4 to 6 months. As I was discussing the other day when we had our meeting, it is dependent on outages that are not necessarily in New England Power's control. But if we get the outages that we feel we're going to get or that have been requested, it should be about 4 to 6 months.
And would you be starting soon?
August.
Does anyone have questions? Bill?
I just got a quick question. I wasn't at the last meeting, but I did review the video recording, and my only question was, have you given any thought with regard to the wetland replication in terms of monitoring to see whether it succeeds or not? I mean, 1 or 2 growing seasons or something of that nature. I mean, this is something we would probably include in a standard order of conditions as a special condition, but I wasn't sure if you had given any thought to that because I didn't see anything in the report regarding establishment of that replicated area.
Yep. Generally, we include in the notice of intent if it's something in the bylaw that's specifically stated, like 2-3 years. The standard we usually monitor for is 2 growing seasons. Not sure if Lowell specifies that, but you are welcome to put that in the conditions. We were planning to do that, and we will do that.
All right, thank you. No further questions.
Ms. Lynch? No questions. Ms. Bedrin? I think the revisions are good, and this looks like a project that we can do an order of conditions on.
I'll motion to issue a standard order of conditions.
Motion made by Ms. Biedron, seconded by Ms. Lynch. Discussion?
Just to confirm, does our standard order of conditions include number of growing seasons to monitor for succession?
We don't have, as per the ordinance, we don't have, so it is recommended to have it as a condition.
Okay, so I guess I would offer an amendment to the current motion to issue a standard order of conditions to have a special condition to monitor the wetland replication area for a period of no less than 2 full growing seasons to ensure that the replicated area is established.
Okay, amendment by Mr. Lovely, seconded by Ms. Biedron. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Amendment passes. Now, all those in favor of the original motion?
Aye.
Aye. All in favor? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next item on the agenda is a request for determination of applicability continued from May 22nd. Project location 61 Bigelow Street and 160.1 Swan Street. We have received a communication from the engineer asking that this particular determination request be withdrawn, and that they will be submitting a notice of intent for the project. However, before we vote on that, I would like to see the report that we commissioned by a peer reviewer on this project placed on file, so it's available for when the project comes back to us, because I thought the information was very valuable and should, of course, the applicant wouldn't want to have to do it again either. I'm not sure if we need a motion for that, but just have that placed on file, and I guess we'll have a motion on the withdrawal.
I make a motion to withdraw on behalf of the applicant, the request for determination of applicability.
Seconded by
Second.
Ms. Biedron. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next, we have a request for determination of applicability continued from June 12th for 40 Lexington Ave, Catherine Russell. This is a repaving of a driveway in the 100-year floodplain land subject to flooding. Aaron Clausen and I met with the contractor and the homeowner this afternoon and got a good idea of what the project involves. Our concern was that the project result in no additional filling to the greatest extent possible, and we had concluded that the one way to ensure that was to cut the driveway a bit back 6 to 8 inches on one side. The driveway was larger than the standard required by Lowell. And at the street, the opening would be 16 feet instead of the present 18 feet. And I believe 16 feet is the requirement in the city of Lowell. The driveway was in poor condition and needs to be leveled because it had collapsed at one point. But we have several visual benchmarks out there that we'll be able to tell whether or not the existing elevation is maintained. And we also discussed a berm at the street, because Lexington Ave at that point is frequently and continually flooded, and I thought it was unfair to have water flowing off the street onto the property and perhaps damaging the new driveway. So those were the concerns that we discussed, and should this result in a -3, I thought let me mention one more thing. Crushed rock was discussed to put a strip along the southern boundary of the driveway in order to slow any water that flowed off the pavement and prevent erosion on that side. So in my mind, this is probably eligible for a -3 determination, but in the special conditions, I think we should mention the reduction of the driveway width, keeping the same elevation, crushed rock along the southern edge of the drive, and a very low berm at the street, at the entrance to the driveway. If anyone has anything to ask or say about that? Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll offer a motion, assuming I captured everything you included in the special conditions, but I will offer a motion to approve this project with a -3 determination, with some special conditions, being 4 of them. One, to reduce the driveway width from 18 feet to 16 feet, having an installation of a berm at the end of the street to prevent run-on into the driveway. Also, the installation of crushed rock at the southern portion of the driveway at the property. And be sure to maintain the current elevations for the new driveway. Assuming I captured that correctly.
Yep.
That is my motion.
I think the 18 feet was only at the entrance, and then it's going to be the width of the garage doors from there on.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Lynch. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next is a notice of intent from the University of Massachusetts Lowell, project DEP number 206710. Project location is 700 Colonial Ave. Limited clearance work along the Merrimack River, including bank, bordering vegetated wetland, and riverfront. Hello.
Good evening. Hi, I'm Beth Rubenstein, Director of Campus Planning at UMass Lowell, and I'm also joined by TJ McCarthy, who's Director of Operations and Services, also at the university. And the university is filing this notice of intent seeking an order of conditions in support of proposed cleanup work along the banks of the Merrimack River on the northern side. As we said in our notice of intent, under an emergency order that was issued May 13th, we have done some limited cleanup in the area with the goal of removing some of the homeless population there to more appropriate settings. And as part of that work, some temporary shelters were removed, some trash and debris and damaged vegetation was taken up. And now all that work stopped at the end of the emergency order, and what we're seeking now is support and approval to go a little bit further and to proceed with the second phase of work that more or less will continue to clear underbrush and vines, and will give us the ability to remove undergrowth of a little larger caliper and to mulch trimmings in place. And as I think we said in the notice of intent, it's our intention to just keep up the minimum level of activity needed to keep the area clear and to keep the views and really just keep the maintenance going. I think we've asked that we be allowed to do that 1 to 2 times a year, probably likely to be once a year, but it might be twice a year, basically to maintain the improved condition of the area. I think with that, I'll take any questions you may have.
Now, you had mentioned taking some larger trees also. How many might there be?
You know, the area, as you saw on the map, is somewhat extensive. You know, we've estimated, it's an estimate, something in the neighborhood of 50 to 100. It may not be that much. And again, the goal is to take just trees that have evidence of partially dead, hollowed out, leaning over, the ones that really aren't viable. That's really, it's really cleaning up the brush is really what we're intending to do.
Now, you were planning, when you do take down brush and trees, were you planning to leave the stumps in place? Because that usually helps hold the soil together.
Yes.
Yeah, I noticed on your plan, you had a 1, 2, 3 area. Is that a phased work, or is that just to?
No, we were just trying to get a sense of I think we included some photographs, and since it's such a long area, we really couldn't get it all in one photo. So we tried to just sort of show you, I think we started at the Beaver Brook end and went that direction. It was really just to capture it all. It all sort of looks the same in the pictures, but we were just trying to capture the whole length of it.
Have you done any kind of survey as yet as to what kind of vegetation there is in there? Or what kind of trees, or?
There are a multitude of various invasive species that are in there.
Variety.
You get the bamboo, you have the other vegetative species that come in. More importantly, this is for public safety. We were able to get the area vacated, but now we need to thin out the area and try to deter that from those sorts of conditions from reoccurring again. All intentions, the chairman has walked through the area with Swathe here with the commission, and we'll mark any trees ahead of time. Anything that has to come down, we want to keep that obviously to a minimum. It's a great resource area that we didn't know. The interceptor line is there as well, so we want to make sure that any of the rocks coming up, working very closely with the city to make sure that vital infrastructure is protected as well.
Sure. Now, is this an area that's going to be accessible to the public when you're finished, or not?
I think it's too early to tell. Also, I would throw in with the zones, the topography is vastly different in all 3 zones. The area towards Beaver Brook is a nice, potentially nice accessible area. Zone 2 is a little bit more steep, almost jetty-like setting to get down to a beach area that is there. It's very nice, but again, may not want to look at public long-term, look at public access in the higher term. At some point in the 70s, a viewing tower was built, so we need to take a look at that as well. So it's very steep, it's different topography that's there. We want to be very careful. But let's open it up and see what it is. It's obviously that sidewalk is very well-traveled from the work that we've done out there. We've observed that right along the boulevard. So, want to be a great neighbor and make sure that those trees aren't coming through and pedestrians have a nice pathway.
Might be a nice link if they continue the walk, instead of walking on the sidewalk, to walk
It's a
through
great
the
idea.
trees.
Great idea.
Any questions?
I just have one question with regard to the, you're going to be wood chipping the trees and brush,
We're hoping
right?
to. We're going to have some access issues.
Yep.
So we want to try to keep everything to a minimum. We found track vehicles worked. We ended up taking out about 130 cubic yards of residential waste from the area. Previously, we had to do that via walking a lot of stuff out. So if we can get some of the area, I think it's a good practice to chip as much as possible. But again, getting a chipper into some of those areas may prove quite difficult.
The only thing to caution you about is any sort of wood chips. You don't want to have them abutting any water area, because you don't want those wood chips going into the river, because that will create nutrient loading and you have your own problems associated with that. So I'd be cautious to make sure if you're going to wood chip and leave chips in place, make sure it's far enough back from the riverbank so it doesn't create that nutrient loading problem.
Good point. Yes, yes, thank you. Will do.
Thanks. That's it.
Ms. Lynch?
When do you anticipate starting this phase of the project? I know that it looks like the first phase was completed June 14th.
We're hoping, we have some bids, we're looking at some bids that we just procured, so after the review period, is it 10 days?
Okay.
If this were,
Okay.
if the,
As soon as possible. How long is it going to take this, I guess this phase, because it sounds like this phase is gonna be set up that you can do it
We're hoping to get
biannually?
it done in 90 days.
Okay.
Fair, but to be quite honest with you, we have to, it's, obviously, this is the peak vegetation season,
Right.
especially with a lot of the invasive species. So we'll see how it goes in one or two of the phases and pull back on the third if
Okay.
we need to be. But we want to open it up as much as possible. It's for the public safety perspective.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you.
Ms. Pedro? You did say that the Conservation Commission would be notified and before the trees would be cut in order to look at what you've proposed.
Correct. We'll mark them and tag them, take pictures, and if there is any interest to come up, or if there's any need to come up for anything, any of the live ones. There are some ones that are dying due to the invasive encroachment onto it. So our head grounds department is an arborist himself, and whatever contractor will be in there, we'll have two sets of eyes on that.
Sure. A notice of intent, so it's a public hearing. At this point, if there's no more questions from the commission, I'd like to open it up to the public. If they have any questions, this is the UMass Lowell project of clearing trees and debris along the riverbank at 700 Colonial Ave. Anyone like to speak on that? Is there anyone here who would like to speak for or against or ask a question about 700 Colonial Ave? Okay, if there's no more questions, I guess we could close the public hearing.
I'll motion to close the public hearing.
Motion by Ms. Pedron, seconded
Second.
by Mr. Lovely. The hearing is closed. Are we ready to write a order of conditions on this project?
Yes. I would offer a motion. I guess a question first, Swati. I mean, my take is if, in the applicant's proposal, they just stated that they would schedule a visit with the Conservation Commission, so I don't see the need to have a special condition if it's in their proposal. That being said, I offer a motion to approve the project with a standard or Lowell order of conditions.
Motion made for standard order. Is there a second?
Just an,
Oh, I'm
Yep.
sorry.
so this is more like an open order where they are seeking this continue on a yearly basis.
Yeah.
So the only thing from DPD staff, and we have many other, right-of-way maintenance work happening, is that the DPD office or Concom office just be notified every time they are proposing to do the maintenance, like an email or phone call,
Yep.
just to update, let us know that, okay, we're planning to do this as per the order.
Okay, and I believe this order would still need to be renewed in 3 years, even though it's a standing order. It would need a renewal, would it not?
Not so. Remember all the notifications I was sending a few of the other meetings where it's from National Grid, DOT, Railway Road? They are not filing it every 3 years. It's like an open order where it is more like a maintenance activity, so,
So this is ongoing then?
yes.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for clarifying
Sure.
that. We have a motion for standard order. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Lynch. Discussion?
I have one question. Do you guys have to build some sort of access road or anything in here? It didn't,
No, we have to work with Mass Highway to
Okay.
get it. There is no access points
okay,
for maintenance. So at some point, we'll be working with Mass Highway to put in some sort of gates for ongoing maintenance.
okay.
But again, it will be all up at this point. It's sort of Mass DOT jurisdiction at this point.
Is there any spot that you'll have to put like some sort of crushed stone down for stability or anything?
At this point, not perceiving it. If it has to be short-term due to some equipment that has to come in, at least for this first time, because this is really basically, the university didn't know we owned this until about 6 months ago, so.
Yeah.
We're gonna do what we need to get done to sort of get whatever equipment, but we're not gonna have free access on and off VFW as it's a major highway. So it's gonna be probably one load in, one load out. with some light tracked vehicles. So we're not really hoping, at least on that Zone 1, Zone 2, maybe you can get maybe a loader at the top part, but again, we have to work with weight restrictions of the interceptor line.
Yeah,
So we're going to be very restricted in any type of heavy equipment to be able to get in there.
okay. If you were to have to put down any material, could you just notify Swathi?
Sure, and we'll try to use wood chips if we can.
Yeah, it might just
There
be like
might
an
be
insignificant
abundant.
change or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
We ready to vote here? All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Thank you. Order's been issued. Thank you for coming in. Swathi will have that soon. Next, we have a notice of intent with no DEP number for the city of Lowell. It's a paving project on Windward Road and Woodville Lane within the 100-year floodplain bordering land subject to flooding. Has this been, have you got a number for this? Or?
Yeah, I checked actually this afternoon again, and I have actually asked the city engineer to reach out to DEP directly to make sure they are in receipt, so we are waiting to hear back from them. Do we have?
Yeah, as of this afternoon, I'm John Gleason, working in the engineer's office. Lisa DeMayo, the city engineer, had not heard back from DEP regarding the number.
Could you stand a little closer to the mic? I'm
I'm
sorry, I
sorry.
can't hear you.
My name is John Gleason with the engineer's office.
Could you tell us a little bit about the project?
Sure. We will be cold planing, grinding off 1.5 inches of asphalt off those two streets and replacing it with 1.5 inches of new asphalt. Limit of work is limited just to the street area. It's about a week's worth of time. We opened bids for the contract last week, and we expect to start around September 1st or so.
Now, would the width of the pavement remain the same?
The same, exactly the same footprint.
Woodville is an interesting little street. It's
Right.
like a driveway.
Right, yeah, there's only, I think, 3 houses located on the street.
So do you expect that the elevations then are going to be essentially the same as they are now?
Yeah, there'll be 0 change in elevation.
And you'll meet every driveway at level that it's at right now?
Yeah, we have the ability, there's a machine that'll go through and grind the gutters along the driveway, so it'll meet the driveways in the same location, elevation that they are now.
Is there any drainage on that Windward Road at all?
There's some catch basins that are tied into the city's
That go into the
system.
wetland?
Yeah, I don't believe that they outfall into the wetland, though. I believe they go into the sewer system. I could double check on that. I'm not positive.
Questions? Well, paving projects, you can't escape them anyway, but we don't have a DEP number on this yet, and when did you want to start work on this? Do you have a date, or?
September 1st is,
Okay, so you have plenty of time.
Yep.
We're going to have to continue, leave the hearing open at your request in order to get that number,
Okay.
because we can't close without it.
Okay.
Could I have a motion to continue?
I'll motion to continue.
By Ms. Bedron, seconded by
Second.
Ms. Lynch, and we'll be taking this up at our next meeting. I'm not sure you need to be here. It seems fairly cut and dried.
Okay.
Thank you for coming.
you.
Oh, I'm sorry,
gotta
I should have opened this to the public. Is there anyone here that would like to speak about the paving of Windward Road or Woodville Lane? No one's indicating they want to speak. so we'll move on. The next is the City of Lowell again for a project of repaving on Hollis Street, bordering wetland buffer zone of a bordering vegetated wetland.
The scope is the same as the other two streets, grinding off the 1.5 inch, replacing it. I believe on the north side of Hollis Street, we're about 75 feet from the wetlands.
As you're driving down Hollis Street, you really don't get a sense that there's a wetland very close by. Is that why you asked for determination rather than?
That's correct.
Notice of intent? I would say that this is going to be probably applicable if it's 75 feet. However, it doesn't appear that it's going to have much of an effect on the wetland. Anyone like to offer a motion on this? Or a
Motion.
question?
Motion to issue.
Question first.
Just thinking this in the context of the, excuse me, just thinking this through in the context of what we were just talking about on Winwood Road. There we had, we went with a notice of intent, but my sense is the location of this project and the part of the wetland buffer that would be potentially within the zone of the pavement, I would think that we could probably issue a -3 determination.
You're speaking of Hollis Street?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so
Is that a motion?
then with that question answered, I'll offer a motion to issue a -3 determination for this project on Hollis Street.
Do we have a second on
Second.
that? Second by Ms. Bedron. Do we have any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Next, we have a request for determination of applicability. Daniel Mealy, 35 Rita Street. Expand an existing deck located within the wetland buffer zone of a bordering vegetated wetland.
Good evening, my name is Jim Fenley. I'm with Architect. I'm here with Dan Mealy, the owner of 35 Rita Street. There currently is a deck in the rear of the property. You can see a picture of this deck in the backyard in attachment 1. The deck is 10 feet by 12 feet. Attachment 5 has got some more closer pictures of it. You get a sense of what it looks like now. And what we propose to do is to extend it 8 feet to the right and 2 feet, actually 1'10", further back towards the wetlands. To minimize any potential issue on the wetlands, we're proposing to do 3 things, as I mentioned in the cover letter. To avoid footings where possible. And we can do that by extending the cantilever, the overhang on the existing deck, 1'10". You can see this on drawing number 6. And where footings are necessary, on the right side, we're adding 8 feet, use helical piers, which require no excavation. And you can see some photographs I took of prior installation of helical footings in attachment 7. These are galvanized steel pipes with a screw on the bottom. Machine twists them into the ground. It measures the bearing capacity. And when finished, we attach a bracket to it, and that's what supports the deck. Pretty minimally invasive. And then, as is normal practice, we're going to space the deck boards about 3/16 of an inch so they drain water through. So I entertain any questions you might have.
Is that huge rock staying there?
Yes, it is. I don't want to move that.
So you're Your footings would go beyond the rock, is that the,
No, the footings will be between, trying to look at the best picture. Between the deck and the rock. We're gonna move the stairs to the other side,
oh, okay.
and the deck will end right near the rock. But we're gonna leave it alone. It's pretty massive.
So you don't essentially have to dig up any of the lawn area?
That's correct.
So, you know, there shouldn't be any more erosion or water flow or anything else more than there is now.
That's correct.
In your experience, is it necessary to space the deck boards, or would that water flow off anyway?
It's common practice, so water doesn't pool on the deck to have it drain through.
Does anyone have a question for Mr. Finley? It would seem that this will have a minimal impact, this row of trees and shrubs between this lawn area and deck area and the stream, which is, I'm not sure how many feet away it might be. You said 85, I believe.
I measured that myself. Now, I'm not a botanist, but I measured from the edge of the deck to the beginning of the water.
It would seem to me that this will have very little effect on the wetland. Speedrun?
Can I make a motion
Sure.
to issue a -3 determination?
Okay, motion for a -3 determination. This will not have an impact on the wetland resource.
I will second that.
Seconded by Mr. Lovely. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
Enjoy
Thank
your
you.
deck.
Those -3s.
Going to be a specialist on that. Next, we have a request for determination from the Centennial Island Centennial Island, I don't know, apartments, I guess they are, project location 576 Lawrence Street. Maintenance and repair of the buildings located within the buffer zone of the bank of River Meadow Brook, re-roofing, repointing, and window replacement. And I believe you're also on the bank of the Concord River, are you not?
Yes.
And is there also a canal there?
Excuse me?
There's also a canal, or is that the River
No,
Meadow
there
Brook?
is the brook comes down through here, there's a dry canal that comes out in this location here.
Okay. All right. Do you identify yourself, please?
Sure. Chris Lorraine from Land Tech Consultants, representing the applicant tonight. The applicant had previously filed a request for determination with the commission in regards to some repair work on the Centennial Island apartments. It constitutes repointing of the brick buildings, as well as repairs to the rubber membrane roof and replacement of the windows within the structure itself. We were subsequently brought into the process after the applicant made their initial presentation to the board. It was my understanding that the commission had asked them to come back with an erosion control plan of how they planned on dealing with potential debris and so forth from the construction process. What we have submitted to you is a plan that shows construction netting to be attached to the building and extend across the brook at both locations of the building, 15 feet wide, a 1/16 inch mesh with a breaking strength of 97 PSI on the material itself, so that we let rainwater through and so forth, but we catch any debris that may fall during the repair process itself. And we wanted to make sure, obviously, it was strong enough to capture any pieces of falling wood or anything along that matter. We've also indicated the same type of material underneath the existing wooden bridge. There is currently an emergency order that this commission issued approximately a month ago for potential repair work to the bridge. There was some question as to the structural stability of that bridge, which required removing some of the timbers of the bridge. I do not have the results of that for the board yet. To be honest with you, I know they were gearing up to do the work. I'm not sure if they've completed it within the last week or if it's still
still in process. However, we did indicate in our discussion regarding the emergency order that we would make sure that there was netting underneath that bridge prior to the construction process taking place. We've also indicated a series of rubber membrane booms to be extended across the brook, one at the front face of the facade of the building, one on the back face, and two approximately 15 feet apart from the downstream location of the bridge itself. And again, these are floating booms that will extend approximately 2 feet below the surface and will capture any debris that may fall through the netting system and enter into the brook itself prior to entering into the Concord River. The plan specifies that those are to be inspected daily, and any debris is to be removed immediately upon entering either the netting system or entering the brook and being caught within the boom system itself. We've also employed, as you can see by the yellow dashed line throughout the surrounding the building at all locations within the buffer area, we've also employed a trough system. And to give you a better picture of what that is, a constructed trough, plywood trough, around the entire perimeter of the building in all areas within the 100-foot buffer, which would be lined with either impermeable plastic or rubber membrane with a slight pitch to it that would come down into essentially 55-gallon drums. And the purpose of that is to capture any of the cleaning agent or any of the wash water that comes from repointing of the bricks themselves. The cleaning agent, and I do have some material sheets for you, is a hydrochloric acid. It's anticipated that at the two facades that cross over the brook, it's anticipated that approximately 2 gallons of the product would be used on each facade in the areas crossing over the brook. Those 2 gallons are further diluted. It's my understanding they're further diluted by anywhere from 4 to 12 gallons of water per gallon of cleaning agent. Once that cleaning agent is applied, it's then washed off with approximately the same amount of clean water, so approximately another 12 gallons of clean water that washes that product off. That would constitute probably, for the facades in these locations anyway, constitute probably 3 to 4 55-gallon drums that would be full of the solution as well as the wash water in both locations. And we've specified that those drums, once they're full, are to be removed by Clean Harbors or an approved equivalent to an appropriate site and dealt with appropriately in accordance with requirements. There has been some discussion that I believe was mentioned to the commission or the commission's agent in regard to potential work within the parking lot itself. I don't have anything to relate to you in regards to that at this time. If there is additional work that's required within the parking lot, we will file a full notice of intent with the commission regarding that work. However, it's been going back and forth as to what that work may or may not entail. And your guess is as good as mine at this point as to how much of that may or may not occur within the buffer zone. So the only work that we're proposing in front of the board for this requested determination tonight is the repointing, replacement of the windows, and repairs to the roof. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Could you explain a little bit how the trough system works? Is that trough at the base of the building?
Yes.
And how does it then get into a 55-gallon drum?
Sure. The trough itself, as can be seen in this picture, is constructed at the base of the building. Essentially, it'd be a plywood trough, about 12 inches wide, be lined with heavy-grade plastic or an impermeable rubber membrane. It would have a very slight pitch to it, probably about a 0.5% slope to it, which would slope to the 55-gallon drums themselves, so that anything that falls from the building would be captured within the trough. The trough is attached to the bottom of the building. And anything that falls from the building would be captured within the trough and directed into the 55-gallon drums. We do indicate on the plan that that trough is to be attached to the building and is to extend directly across the brooks as well. so that is required, that it has to extend across the brooks and is to be supported by the building and the wing walls on either side.
So is the drum submerged somehow below grade? Or do you have a pump system, or how does the water flow into the?
No, it's actually, you're correct, we would have to dig a small hole to put the 55-gallon drum in. We'd have to make provisions to put the drum into the ground. Or hold up the trough high enough to discharge into the drum, and then as we lower the trough, if we have to get to the bottom part of the brick, we'd have to lower the trough at that point, and we'd have to either submerge the 55-gallon drum into the ground, or we would have to come up with a pump system to deal with it at that point.
And how is the trough or the plastic attached to the building?
To the building itself, I can't think of the name of it. Essentially, it's a powder charge that would drive the trough directly into the building. There are spikes that would be a powder charge that would drive the trough directly into the building. And then we would suggest that the edge of the plywood trough, between the edge of the plywood trough and the building itself, along the top of it, that it be caulked in place so that nothing seeps down behind the plywood trough.
Now, are there going to be any materials stored within 100 feet of the source areas?
I'm sorry, I'm holding the plan upside down. We've specified on the plan itself that the contractor is to specify a storage material site on site prior to construction, and to review that with the conservation director, the conservation coordinator, during the review of all of the erosion control measures that have put in place prior to the construction itself, and that efforts are to be made to put that storage area outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. It's a very tight site as it sits right now, and there aren't many parking spots that they're able to give up. So I think they're still trying to work out the logistics of if they are going to store anything on site, how they're going to store it on site, and where they're going to store it, because there's not a lot of room to work on the site as it is.
Do we have questions?
Just a comment, following up on Commissioner Varnum's comment. It may be easier just to build a temporary sump at the end of your trough trench going around the perimeter of the building, and then periodically pump out into the 55-gallon drum versus trying to go through the trouble of digging and burying in a 55-gallon drum and then removing it. I think that would probably be the easier thing to do. You could simply build the sump with the same poly sheeting and it, have a berm built around, build the sump, put the poly sheeting in, and then periodically pump out the solution. It'll certainly be much more dilute by then. I'm willing to bet it's non-haz.
Correct.
We'll leave it to Clean Harbors to determine that for you.
Right.
But that would probably be less of a potential impact and also less of a burden for you. So I would just suggest that as a consideration.
Sure, we will definitely take a look at that. I'll speak with the contractor, see what's preferable for the contractor to how to handle that. And we'll clear that through the conservation coordinator. We'll clear that through before proceeding.
Ms. Lynch?
No questions.
Ms. Peter? This seems rather complex to me for a determination. I mean, it's obviously applicable. It's right on the water. I guess the question is whether this is considered something that's likely to become a problem, or whether this proposal addresses all of the things that could go wrong. I could go either way on this as far as whether it's necessary for them to file a notice of intent.
Following up on that, I would think that this could be done without going through the notice of intent process, but particularly since that the work is technically, it's in the resource area, but it's actually on the building itself. It's not actually in the resource. But I would want, if we were to issue a -3 determination, I would want to somewhat codify what you have in your proposal as I don't know what the mechanism would be, Swathia, how would we do that to kind of codify what the applicant is proposing to do for soil erosion control measures if we were to go the -3 determination route with the notice, with the request for determination of applicability versus going through the notice of intent. I'd hate to go through the process for process sake. If we can avoid that and accomplish this through the RDA, I think that would be preferable.
What I would say is I agree with you that the work is not on the resource area, it's above. And I think they have taken enough measures to mitigate or at least control any impact. But some of the conditions you could make sure the erosion control and some of the other items that were discussed are worked out with DPD staff and then provided an update to you. So some of those conditions should be okay with an RDA -3.
All right, thanks.
I would just indicate that if we had been brought on board beforehand, I probably wouldn't have approached it this way with the RDA to begin with. But we certainly would anticipate that if the board were to issue a negative determination for the RDA, it would be contingent upon having the measures in place that are shown on this plan.
Will there be a licensed engineer on site while this work is being done?
At this point, that's not in the plans to my knowledge.
How about a qualified person? We don't have to be an engineer, someone that would be or in the OSHA speak, competent person.
There would be, because of the materials that are being used and so forth, there will be a person on site during the use of the materials that is a competent person that is qualified through OSHA and so forth. Yes, that's required.
My thinking is that would probably be sufficient for the purpose of ensuring that the provisions that you're proposing are followed through, because none of us would want to be in a situation where we have discharges going into the river, because then there's a direct violation, and then you're subject to a violation and fines. So I'm comfortable, for one, that we could go the RDA approach with the -3 determination, with the understanding that there's a competent person out there to make sure that the provisions that are in the for the erosion controls that you just proposed are followed through appropriately. That's just my opinion.
Sure.
Any more comments from the engineers?
I'm a professional engineer, you don't need a professional engineer, just somebody qualified. Yeah. You wouldn't want me out there.
Do we have a motion from?
I'll offer a motion to approve the project with a -3 determination, subject to the applicant implementing the procedures or proposal as stated at today's meeting, with appropriate follow-up with our agent.
Second?
Motion made and seconded. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have a request for a certificate of compliance. PJ Mercier, project location 143 Alma Street. This is DEP file number 206-478. This is an old file from, I think, 2000,
Yeah, it's 2010, I believe.
2010?
The one, sorry, 2001, 2010. What is it?
I think it's around 2000.
Yeah.
Apparently, this is the addition that was put on the house that is...
There was an addition put on the house. The house has currently been sold, but they had put a condition on there that in order to get the order conditions.
Could you identify yourself?
My name is PJ Mercier, 2100 Lakeview Ave, Drake, Mass. I'm the realtor with the, representing the Laytons, the previous homeowners. We had I met Mr. Clausen, I believe it was out there, Aaron Clausen, at site. And we reviewed the project. He insisted that we get an engineer to verify that it was, conforms. We have an engineer that did that, produced a plan and a letter stating such, and I'm not sure who I give that to.
I don't know. All I have is the application, the old 2000 application. It's built. What's the deviation? Have you had a chance to look at? When they say substantially, means, what's the difference? I mean, de minimis changes.
Plus, he hadn't indicated the flood elevation on the notice of intent that was filed. So we have to go with what is the current elevation, the flood elevation.
Oh, so it's too low? Now, is this the flow-through area?
Yes.
We don't have any statement from the engineer about how I think that was part of the order, was how the columns and the joists connected to one another.
I believe it's described on the plan, the top left-hand corner of the plan.
Okay.
Is there a description about joists on that?
Yep, they say 7 wood columns, 4 by 6 inch support structure, open crawl space under floor joists. And he also states in the letter that a flow-through area underneath does not affect the flood area.
Of course, this is in an area that's changed substantially, as Swati was just explaining to us, due to 2 floods in the recent years since this project came before us. It is a flow-through foundation, and it's still there after 2 floods. So I'm assuming that it's structurally probably pretty sound. We do have a stamped statement from an engineer. And at this point, I'm not sure we have too much more to request.
Yeah, they have a copy up there.
That combined with the evidence you just.
There's probably no compensation or anything for whatever was, but, times were, this is from 2000. It's just the addition, the house is fairly old. Right.
Just looking back at the old 2000 application, the old, in addition to the standard Lowell order of conditions, there looks like there were two, or one special condition where it says floor joists that be fastened to the top of the columns using available hardware to hold the joist in place. Area under the wooden floor joist is to be kept open.
It is open, it's lattice work.
Okay. So with that being said, and obviously having the engineer's certification, I would conclude that the work was performed in accordance with the order of conditions, meaning that I'm not sure if there's anything else to do at this point other than to issue a standard certificate of compliance for the work.
Is that a motion?
That's my comment. I'd be happy to offer that motion.
I'll make a motion to issue a standard or certificate of compliance.
Okay, motion by Ms. Biedron to issue this certificate of compliance, seconded by?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. Lovely. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
You don't want to complain about it, right?
Certificates issued.
Thanks.
Congrats on selling your house.
Thank you.
Woo-hoo, yeah.
Were we going to receive something back?
Yes, we're going to get you.
All right, send it to...
You're the only one that was running the commission back
I
then.
know. What, did I sign it?
Well, 2000.
I don't remember this one at all. I thought I might have been on vacation or something.
There you are.
I did, I signed it. Okay. That's not on the agenda. Do we have any choice? Or we just gonna
I think if you don't want it, you have to call them.
Layton's, Gary. Oh. Yes, so that, yeah. Okay.
So the question is,
Because they're going to have to send it to their attorneys.
yes, I understand that. The certificate of compliance we have on address, should that also be that address or the address we have on the application?
I figured it was the address for the location, that's why I kept...
Okay, that's fine. And then we just mail it to this address.
Correct. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Hey.
Swath, you had some other business, or? Okay.
We're now at the bottom of our agenda, under other business. We have a letter from Central Massachusetts Mosquito Control Project, giving several dates where project personnel will be in our area, subject to change. And complaints can be registered at a number that's given here. I'm not sure the best way to inform the public of this. I know there are several beekeepers in my neighborhood, including myself, that probably are not interested in having a spray put down in the area of our hives. But I'm thinking that, how is this explained to the public? Do you know, Swati?
What I can do is I can check with the health board of health, and understand what kind of outreach they are proposing. And I can update you with a follow-up email, because we just got this in mail yesterday, so we haven't had sufficient time to review it and correspond with the board. So definitely before next meeting, we should be able to
However, be warned that the dates are very nearby, July 2nd, 10th, 17th,
Yeah.
24th, and 31st. So whatever complaints need to be, maybe I'll just give the number here. Complaints about mosquitoes may be registered. Oh, complaints about mosquitoes, not about mosquito spraying.
No.
So are they only spraying if people complain?
Yes.
Okay, so they'll come out and check your area, and if they feel as though there's an overpopulation of mosquitoes, then they'll come out and spray?
Yes.
So I guess maybe for our board, the question would be, what are they spraying with?
Okay.
I mean, it says targeted application of very specific pesticides, but doesn't necessarily list them.
Okay.
Not being an entomologist, but I guess the thing that I would be concerned about is just to make sure whatever pesticide that is used has a short life, particularly in light of what Commissioner Varnum was talking about. You know, there's this whole issue now with bee colony collapse disorder, and recognizing the need to balance, you know, public health issues associated with mosquito-borne diseases, but also trying to, you know, be specifically targeted with the application. So I guess I would just second Commissioner Lynch's comment to make sure that, and I assume this is the case, it's, you know, the application's done by a qualified professional and in appropriate locations.
Sure. What I can do is I can correspond with we're waiting to hear back from the Board of Health, and I will share that information with the Commission.
Thank you.
Apparently, you can, there is a 333 CMR 13.04, no intentional application of pesticide shall be made to private property which has been designated for exclusion from such application by a person living on or legally in control of said property. So perhaps we should give this number for those viewers at home who may be listening. If you want to run and get a pencil, there's a number here to call with questions or complaints, and I'm assuming that this is also the number if you want to exclude your property from any spraying. This is the Central Mass Mosquito Control Project, and their number is 508-393-3055. You may call Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. Excuse me. So I guess they can, that's for questions and complaints. And you can also contact the Conservation Office at City Hall to get that number again while I'm losing my voice.
I will, with that, and to save your voice, I'll offer a motion to adjourn. Unless there's any new business, Swathi.
Oh, hold on. Swathi has one more item.
So we have a few engineering city projects coming, similar paving. The one that you heard today was small enough that the abutters list was not in hundreds. But we are aware about some upcoming projects. We're looking at minimum of 100 on the abutters list. So we wanted to look into the option of maybe amending the city's ordinance with regard to the wetland notification process. If it's like a road project, basically limiting it to maybe as per the Wetland Protection Act, limiting it to the 100 feet buffer, and or maybe just the adjacent abutters who are really abutting the road. And this can be set in such a way that if it's a road project of that exceeds X length. So that's something we wanted to discuss with the commission, and we're not trying to come to a conclusion at this meeting. We definitely want to talk with the law department to see what are the ramifications about such an option, because it's definitely not in place if it's a new project. It's more like a repaving, which is more like a maintenance, more like a public project. So, and it amounts to a lot of money just for the notification process. So just wanted to, start that discussion, and we can continue that at the next meeting. And I will have more input from the other departments about, what might entail the process.
Swathi, could they do one permit and call it like the city paving for the year? Or even 3 years, because the permit's good for 3 years? Are you talking about you don't want to notify all those abutters?
Yes. See,
can we Can we make it exempt to notifying the abutters, or you have to?
Yeah, we have to. If it's a notice of intent, we have to. So it's a matter of.
Perhaps you could lessen the notification to, a letter instead of a certified letter.
Yes, something like that. That will be great. We have no
On-
problem sending out to the 300
Paving
feet.
projects.
Yes,
Because
more like repaving, maintenance repaving of streets. So,
Could they, I mean, I'm sure they know what they're doing
Yes.
for the year, or whatever the period is, so they could just come and do one big permit, and it could encompass, various streets within the city.
yes, but we still need to have some understanding of who gets notified and how, because not all the streets are in jurisdictional area, and it could be in different jurisdictional areas too.
But it also could be just good practice that the city just sends out a letter to every resident on that street saying, hey, you're just keeping them in the loop regardless, and then that could count towards that also.
Yes, that is the intent.
Yeah.
So basically, and it needn't be one every year, location-wise, and we're trying to basically send this out to only people who are actually impacted by that particular work.
Yeah.
So,
I don't have any problem with that. I mean,
Okay.
notifying the people that are gonna be most affected, I think, is the
Critical.
right way to go. I mean, if you're paving 2 streets away from me, but somehow I'm within the 100-foot area,
okay.
I mean, great, I get a letter saying that pavement's being done, but it doesn't impact me. Is it still gonna be, put in notice in the newspaper?
Yes,
So,
definitely.
I mean, that way people can see it too, so that way, if they're impacted by their commute or something like that, then they'll see that. But I think for projects like this, definitely, send it to the people that will be impacted, people that live on the street, but
Okay.
I think more than that.
We just needed to correspond with DEP on that because, the Wetland Protection Act mandates certified notification to everyone within 100 feet buffer. So usually when a municipality, a town or city develops an ordinance, it's supposed to be something more stringent.
Right.
Yeah.
So we have to discuss with them if we can do something
Right.
like everyone within 100 feet by certified mail and anyone beyond that in the 300 feet. That way we are not disrespecting
Yeah.
the ordinance by like regular mail.
Right.
That won't be too much.
If DEP isn't for that, could we always just decrease this permit to an RDA? And then you don't have to notify anyone, correct? 'Cause I mean, they come in for all this, we're not even making them put up erosion control. So,
No, they do need to follow the regular erosion control procedure. So since it's a city, we do have, for any kind of work in resource area, they have to follow as if it is a private job.
but the stuff, everything that got tonight, I didn't see erosion control on the plans. Or was I missing
That's
something?
because the city has a standard erosion control they didn't submit with it, but that's their protocol.
Okay.
Because every time we get a private project to be reviewed, we have a checklist, and the city has certain erosion control standards that the applicant has to meet, and the city will subject itself to that standard.
So if they're paving in a buffer zone, we make them put up erosion control?
Yes, definitely.
I don't know if that's really necessary. but-
Well, under the Federal Clean Water Act, any project work over an acre, requires stormwater controls. So
Yeah, but like a small road,
Yeah.
some of these aren't, like tonight, that road with 3 houses probably wasn't even an acre.
right.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the one with the notice of intent, keep in mind, we couldn't close the hearing anyways because we didn't have a DEP file.
Yes, so
That's
that
why
is
we didn't get into
something you can discuss and confirm on, set it as a condition.
Yeah. I guess if they're milling and if they're milling, that's one thing, because, you have dust and, but if they're just putting an overlay on in a day, you don't really need erosion control for that.
Depending on, the project that came today,
He was milling.
yes.
Yeah.
And the distance was more from the 50 to 100 feet distance. So that gives us some buffer, but had it been like something like a stream crossing or something like that, that would have, been more closely.
Yeah, but still, just for an overlay, it's not, there's no dust on an overlay here.
Sometimes they raise curbs and things like that, which is digging in the earth, which could be a problem.
Yeah.
The other problem is sometimes some of these roads have been paved so much, sometimes there's resetting of curbs, which means actually, taking the one out and making sure.
Yeah, that's not just, like you guys just mentioned, that's not an overlay anymore, that's
No.
doing work.
Yes.
But if they had a.
So that's why we don't want to, have this umbrella kind of like maintenance thing, because each.
Road's different.
Yes.
Okay.
So, I mean, I understand, we are looking at them coming for, what they're trying to do is they are approaching the commission as per their work order. So basically, the notice of intent is actually for 2 roads, if you look at it. And since both of them are in the floodplain, they are putting it under one order. So they're trying to balance their budget, so it's easy to account for that. So that's why they are trying to approach it at multiple times.
But we shouldn't have to have them come in, like, how many streets are they paving? Is it like 100 streets?
No, not that many.
Okay.
I would say it's somewhere between 5 to 8 maximum per
Oh,
year.
okay. All right.
Yeah,
It's about
and not
10.
every street's within the resource area, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
I thought it was like gonna be like 50 to 100.
yeah. And then even some of those streets, the stretch that is within the resource area is not that long. I know Lakeview is coming. That is a big one.
Yeah.
That's the one we took a look at the number of abutters, and it's like definitely over 500. So that's what prompted this discussion.
Okay.
I think we dealt with them fairly quickly. It wasn't, it's not a big deal for us to just review the project. But I can see how the letters would be
Yeah.
cumbersome.
Yes, so we're trying to make sure that we don't have something that is less stringent than what the Wetland Protection Act is saying is mandatory. But at the same time, we're trying to, find some relief to cover what we have come up with the ordinance. So, some exemption to the project, well, like basically street-related projects. That's all we are looking to amend.
Sounds fine to me.
Okay, so I will have some kind of language drafted up, and I will pass it around. So maybe we can, try to nail it down for next meeting. Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anything else, Swati?
No, that's all. We have a few minutes due, so they should be coming.
All right.
Okay, so Bill, now,
Motion to adjourn?
motion to adjourn,
Second.
second by Ms. Lynch. Thank you very much.
Thank you.